Hello, I'm Barry Reisman, and we are back here with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer. And Jack always has something to tell us that gives us knowledge and education. And if you're buying or selling or investing, pay very close attention. And I know that Jack has something today to talk about that is a vitally important topic. So, Jack, what's on the agenda for today's House Whisperer show?
Well, thank you, Barry. It's good to be back, and I hope everyone enjoyed last week's segment. I'm Jack Milne with Tri-County Inspection Company. Barry, today's topic is rain and mold. You know, and I think we've all had enough of the rain this season, and not only that, but the heat. And when we have these days upon days of very humid weather, it just becomes a festering point for what we call biological organisms. Home inspectors can't even use the term mold because there's only 4,000 varieties of it. So which one do you have? Well, it's kind of hard to tell, but they all do come in shapes and colors and smells and odors. And think of mold simply as a growth. And we can have blue cheese dressing, of which I really do enjoy in my salads. It's a simple mold. But we can also have Stachybotrys, which can affect our respiratory and respiratory systems.
I'll take the blue cheese.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I love that. So that's what our topic is today, Barry. But before I start, I really want to thank my sponsors because, again, without them, I wouldn't be on the air. So Bucksmont Inspections, again, they do on-site sewage evaluations. I do encourage that if you're buying a home that could have potentially a $40,000 on-site sewage system or the old 1966 cesspool, please call Bucksmont Inspections. Their phone number is 215-669-4213. And their website is bucksmontinspections.com. Burrow Exterminating, again, my friends at Burrow, 610-586-5640. Again, they do radon testing and wood-destroying insect evaluations. Pest Blaster. They do mold testing. They do radon. They do pest control and what we call WDI, wood-destroying insect evaluations. 215-295-5555. My company, of course, Tri-County Inspection Company, 215-295-2030, and 610- Oh, boy, too many numbers, Barry. Let's go Jersey, 856-853-4224. And finally, brainflushgear.com. I think that's as simple as it sounds. So if you want that sportswear, check it out. They can do anything that you're looking for. So the email box, the show's too new, so email me, okay, at thehousewhispershow@gmail.com. And for any old episodes, please go back to thehousewhispershow.com. And if I can ask, if anyone's interested in sponsoring The House Whisperer, please reach out to me at the Gmail address, and I'd love to talk to you, especially if you're a service provider. But I do have to do a little bit of homework to make sure that you're at the caliber that I can recommend so that every home you go into, you're welcomed.
And let me just say this, and then let you continue, that Jack is a professional home inspector, so he knows the insides, the outsides, the upstairs, the downstairs of homes all over the Delaware Valley. And he's the guy to call, and he's going to talk to us about this very important subject now.
Well, the big thing, Barry, now is that almost 95% of homes that are purchased in this market do get home inspections. When I started in 1983, it was only about 10%. So the numbers have actually reversed themselves. So every deal today is really contingent on a home inspection, and the realtors are promoting it because they don't want to take on the liability. So you have to do your homework, you have to do your research, and don't just call the first company. But back to our topic. Rain and mold. So let's talk about it. In the summer 2013, three things were consistent. We had the heat wave, and our heat wave comes in two sources. We have dry heat and we have wet heat. Think dry heat of Arizona. It can be 110 degrees, and you know what? You don't even break out in a sweat. Meanwhile, here in Philadelphia and surrounding counties, you can have a 90-degree day with 90% relative humidity. You walk outside, and one, you can't breathe, and two, all of a sudden your deodorant's not working as well as it used to. So that's the humid heat. That's the moist heat. That's the uncomfortable heat. And this is the one where at 100% relative humidity, what do we get? We get rain. So every day on the Weather Channel, before I get dressed, I want to know how to dress appropriately to serve my clients. So I put the Weather Channel on. It seemed like every day there was a chance of rain this summer. And, they have to predict it that way because when the humidity levels are that high, well, there is an absolute chance of rain. It may happen, but it may not. So the weather really plays a serious effect as to how we dress, how we drive, how we prepare. So, and then if you've noticed, when it did rain this summer, it was in buckets. It was in droves. It wasn't just a little shower. I mean, it came down horizontally. And horizontal rain gets into every little nook and cranny that you didn't even know you owned before. And this can lead into foundation cracks. It can lead into foundation windows. It can lead into cracks in windows. If you forgot to put your storms down and water came into the windows, into the rooms that way, it's not unusual. Those folks who have ridge vents, that's a ventilation system that goes across the peak of the roof. That's another way that horizontal rains can actually get into our attic. Gable end vents, those are the rectangular louvers on each side of the home. Again, another way that water can come in. And when it's driven by high winds, all of a sudden it's not this simple downpour anymore. I mean, you're fighting a battle, and so is your home. And sometimes the house wins, and sometimes it doesn't. With some homes, as they've gotten newer and newer, the builders in probably the 1960s through the 1990s were installing something called perimeter drains. And if you walk downstairs to your basement, you see about a 1-inch gap separating your slab from the house wall, that's a perimeter drain. It's often confused with a French drain, but a French drain is actually terracotta tiles that's put around the outside of your home. So when people talk French drain versus perimeter drains, they're like night and day, completely different. But because of the introduction of radon, which really started in the early 1980s, now all of a sudden the builders were going to something different where they were sealing the slabs and then doing something called sub-slab drainage systems, so that they would put a perforated pipe within a stone bed around the perimeter of the foundation and lead to the sump pit. This way, one, it corrected the radon, and two, it controlled the flow of water. But when we have saturation of soils, this is where the foundation walls almost give up the ghost and they say, look, I'm doing my best, but all of a sudden we get this chalking or this moisture that lies against the interior walls. And for you folks who have the older homes built, let's say in the 1930s through the 1980s, where you have concrete block or cinder block, that black stuff that you see on your walls is actually moisture. The white rings that it leaves behind is called efflorescence. Folks, that is not a mold, okay? I want to be very clear on that. It's not a mold. That's actually calcium that is derived from the mortar that puts the blocks together. Now, ongoing moisture, continual ongoing moisture, you might actually grow hair through your concrete block. Now, that is a mold. Gee. That is a mold.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to talk more about molds in just a moment. You're listening to the House Whisperer Show with Jack Milne at WWDB Talk 860 and WWDBAM.com. And by the way, if you want to hear the show again, it's podcasted at our website, WWDBAM 860. We're also on your smartphone, so you can hear us all over the world. And, Jack, you've got a whole backlog of shows on your website. You want to just mention that?
Yeah, thanks, Barry. That's thehousewhisperershow.com. And it's really, it's very easy to apply. You just click in. You can go through all the shows that I've offered in the past. And if something really tickles your fancy, listen in.
Okay, and we'll tickle your fancy a little more right after these messages.
Two cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy.
Oro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperers show.
As the weather gets cooler and the temperatures drop, the bugs might slow down, but the rodents don't stop. Mice and rats begin to invade homes during the fall and winter months, looking for food, warmth, and a comfortable place to nest. Don't wait for pesky rodents to invade your home. Fight back. Have your home baited and ready for their attack with Pest Blaster. Whether preventative or a full-blown infestation, give Pest Blaster a call at 215-295-5555 and they can discuss the solution to your problem. They also offer humane animal removal services for a wide variety of wild animals, damage repairs, and cleanups. Call them today at 215-295-5555 or check them out at pestblaster.com, servicing both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Pest Blaster, 215-295-5555 or pestblaster.com for all your pest control needs.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They're licensed in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
We are back with Jack Milne. You're listening to the House Whisperer Show. And the topic of today, very important topic, because you can really get sick from it, is mold. And Jack, I'm giving it back to you.
Thank you, Barry. Three things, again, lead to mold. First off, the saturation of soils. There's not much we can do about that, but we can control the flow of water away from the building. I actually ended up with mold in my garage this past year because I got a brand new roof put on my house in my garage. They took off my gutter guards, and then being under a canopy of maples, I got the seed pods, I got the wingdings, and then I got all the crap that filled up my gutters to a tune of about 200 pounds once I cleared my gutters. And because of that, the water overflowed my gutters, went too close to my foundation, and actually seeped into the garage. And I did get a green mold on my plywood that surrounds my garage. I was able to correct it, but it comes to three things: clear gutters, downspout extensions. Don't forget about that, folks. Make sure your downspouts drain at least a good 3 to 5 feet away from the foundation. And if you have underground drainage systems, question them constantly. Make sure they work. Stick your hose down, and if it backs up, it ain't working. So now we got to extend our downspouts well enough away from the home so the water doesn't weep back. But let's say, how do I know I have mold? Well, first off, any of your personal possessions that are in the basement are going to talk to you. If you have cardboard, you have books, you have any paper derivatives, mold will attack that first. So if you have cardboard that looks like it's falling apart, or you're getting white spots or green spots, yellow spots, black spots, this is all a derivative of mold. In my basement, I actually started getting a little bit of mold on my leather furniture.
Is that what I smell when I go into, like they say, a moldy basement? That's mold that I'm smelling?
Yeah, in fact, that's a great point, Barry, because even as home inspectors, we always do the outside first. We do the paperwork, then we head to the basement. And you know why? Our sinuses are fresh. So that we open that door leading to the basement, the first thing you do is take a nice breath. And the other thing about mold, too, is sometimes you can taste it. So it almost gets on the palate of your tongue or the roof of your mouth, and if you can smell it or taste it, you have it. So now let's use the other one of God's senses, and let's use our eyes, and let's take a look around and see what's going on. I think the first thing you need to do is focus on your corners. The corners are the weakest part and the strongest part of the foundation. It's the strongest part because that's where we bring two corners of the house together. But it's the weakest point because where does the builder put the downspout? He puts it at the corner. So if you're going to get water into your house, folks, you're going to get it at the corners. Make sure your grades are positive, too. So as you walk around the outside of the building, if you have level grade or negative grade, that's going to bring water back. And always visually check your sump pump, and also make sure you check the pump itself to make sure it works. And we're going to talk on that a little bit later in the show as to backups. But let's say that we do have coloring, okay? It wasn't the color of the paint, but you've got to color the mold. Again, black mold, I think, is the most popular one that we come across, and that's your Stachybotrys. Now, that can set up within 48 hours of a rain. That's it. Wow. It takes no time for it to grab root. And I have to put in my disclaimer that if you're seeing the black mold, go right to the professionals, please. You want to go to your Serve Pros and any of these companies that do restoration work, because if you bother it, it can get into the air, it can get into your respiratory tract, and it can affect your health. But I look at it this way too, Barry. I'm allergic to cats. Okay? I'm not really allergic to mold.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But cats affect me differently than if the house didn't have cats. But mold can affect people differently, too. I did this $800,000 home in Gwynedd probably about 4 years ago. And I'm with my client, and I pulled back some insulation from a basement to a crawl space, and this woman went down. I mean, she dropped to the ground.
Wow.
So being the old lifeguard, I pulled her outside and I got her revived. And I said, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Jack, I just got walloped by a mold issue." And so she actually called me about 2 weeks later. And she goes, "Jack, I have a mitigation company out there that said they got rid of all the mold. Should I buy this house?" And I said, "My dear, I can't answer that question." I said, "It's like buying an expensive car and you don't sit well in the seat. So you have to make this decision to see if you want to move forward, but I can't make that decision for you. But if it had mold in the past, it may have mold again in the future. So make sure that if you do have a mold scenario, that you hire a good qualified company that not only gets rid of the mold, but determines the source of the mold so it doesn't come back. So if you see these things, get rid of anything that is holding it. If it's the old books, get rid of the books. If it hasn't been used in a year, get it out of here. Roll back your carpet, because if you see any of the black mold on the jute is what holds all your fibers together, then get rid of the carpet. If you're pulling the carpet back and you see the carpet tack that secures the carpet to the slab and it's on there, then you got to pull up the carpet tack. But one thing that's nice about drywall is it comes in 4-foot seams. So if you measure from the floor to the 4-foot point, you can take a razor knife and easily cut it back. And once you cut it back and you pull it forward, if you have mold on the back of that sheet, then get rid of it. But drywall is easy. But let's say we have insulation behind the drywall. And if you see mold on that, folks, pull that out too. You have to get rid of what is holding the mold back. But one thing I do want to talk about too are sump pumps, because that's our lifeblood. And, you know, how many times this past year have we lost power? I know.
Yeah.
In my home.
Enough to make me think maybe I should be buying a generator.
Well, Barry, I bought two.
You did, huh? I mean, you could lend me one.
Yeah, I mean, I bought one for my office. I mean, look at Hurricane Sandy, you know, how it affected, you know, a small businessman, but it also affected my home. So I actually bought two because I don't want to be in that predicament again. And I want to do a show on generators, Barry. I think that would be good for our listeners. But if you want to hear something quick, go to thehousewhisperershow.com, because there is an older segment on generators. So again, queuing back to that. But there's two primary types of sump pumps. We have battery backups and we have water-actuated sump pumps. I think the water-actuated sump pump is the best right now. It takes a 3/4-inch line right above your water main shutoff that has to feed over to a sump pit or sump pump that when you lose power, it takes a gallon of your public water to push a gallon of your sump pump water. So it's almost foolproof. But if you have a well, you can't use that type of a pump. Because if you lose power, of course, you're going to lose your well too. If you have a generator, then we don't even have to have that discussion. But I think what most people are familiar with are battery backup sump pumps, and those are ones that require a marine-grade battery. And I have to stress that point. It can't be a car battery. It has to be a marine-grade battery. Because one thing about marine batteries is that you can take them down to nothing. And if you fill those cells back up and you put it back on the trickle charger, it will again work for you. But the question becomes, for how long? And that I can't answer, because most people forget to put distilled water in the cells of that battery every 3 months to maintain the performance of the battery. I can't get people to change a filter in a furnace once a month.
Right.
Let alone put distilled water in the cells of their marine-grade battery. So for anyone who has public water, I strongly encourage a water-actuated sump pump system.
What about the dehumidifiers?
Dehumidifiers is an important role, too. I mean, an old dehumidifier, if you own one, get rid of it. It's like an old refrigerator. It's just gonna
Really? They don't last forever?
Well, they can last forever, but it'll suck the money out of your wallet. Because a dehumidifier, an old one, uses as much power as a refrigerator.
No kidding.
And a refrigerator is one of the largest appliances in your home. So what I did when I had the issue with my garage, I just went ahead and bit the bullet, and I bought a new dehumidifier.
Well, I'm telling you, I am learning so much by talking to Jack. This is phenomenal, and I'm sure our listeners are picking up so many great tips, too. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer, on WWDB.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 25 years. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They've performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They're licensed in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. In PA, call 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today, and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com. brainflushgear.com.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Well, Jack Milne, this has been fascinating. The House Whisperer knows his stuff, doesn't he? We're about ready to say goodbye, but why don't you give us a little teaser about what's coming up next week?
Absolutely. Before I forget, with your dehumidifier, if you can buy a condensate pump and let it go into the pump and then pit it and then get it pumped outside, you don't have to control the water every weekend. But Barry, next weekend we're going to talk about Pico smart meters. They're all getting installed in our homes. I've got some great information for our listeners. So it looks like we're out of time.
Well, we have time for you to tell us where to get a hold of you. If anybody wants to talk to Jack Milne, the House Whisperer, where do they get you?
Well, my office line is 215-295-2030. In New Jersey, 856-853-4224. Email me, info@tcinspect.com. And, of course, any topic you want me to discuss on this show, this is your show, please go to housewhispershow@gmail.com.
Well, Jack, we are out of time, and time to say goodbye.
Well, as it is Sunday, folks, please spend time with friends and family, and I look forward to seeing you next week on WWDB.